Greetings everyone, Brett here with Hammerhead Model Making, and we are back with another 5-minute review. This video is done in partnership with MRS Hobby Shop as they help supply some of the paint that I'm going to be reviewing today. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this review of Kaleido paint. This is acrylic paint. I have done a previous review on some of their paints. These are slightly different sets of paints, and the gallery did send me one of the other sets of paints in this review, so just for full disclosure here. But we're going to take a look at this set here. This is the Mecha color set that they have, and one thing you'll note about all of the color sets that Kaleido provides is they always give you a bottle of thinner and they always give you a bottle of airbrush cleaner. Regardless if it's the larger sets or the smaller sets, you get some, which is kind of nice. That is a nice feature to include with your paints. Now, if you've watched the previous review I did on the Kaleido paints, this one's not going to be tremendously different. Obviously, the color choices are different here. And I'm going to do the paint testing slightly different as well. So I've just got a piece here of flat styrene that I have primed in a kind of a neutral gray primer. And I'm going to hit the very top of it here with some white. And what I'm going to do is just allow myself to kind of see how the paint would look over a white undercoat and kind of a neutral gray undercoat. I am spraying these neat out of the bottle, no thinning, and I'm using a 0.3 needle, and I'm spraying at roughly 18 to 20 psi. I found that when I thinned the paints in the last review, their opacity was really suspect, and so I was just kind of curious to see how they would do just straight out of the bottle. It does say that it is formulated for airbrush. I find them to be just slightly on the thick side, so you just need a little bit more pressure to get this through a smaller diameter needle. You can see here that the paint is generally glossy. They do have a set of matte colors that that Kaleido has sent me, but I have not had a chance to test them out yet. In general, they're going to come out kind of like a semi-gloss, kind of satiny sheen. And I found that I was getting a little bit of like an egg peel, eggshell effect when painting. Now you can kind of see here that what I'm trying to do here is to see how well it's going to paint over white, which, in theory should always come out looking really good. And then over the gray color, which is a little bit darker. And you can kind of get an idea of the opacity of some of these colors. Now, in general, spraying these neat out of the bottle, they seem to do okay. I wasn't necessarily getting like super great coverage, and it felt like I had to like layer it on pretty thick in order to get good coverage over the gray primer. Obviously over the white, it's showing through pretty good. And I mean, again, it's gonna be like the previous review, like they're not bad paints. I just haven't seen what's necessarily super great about them at this point. What I will say in favor of these paints is that they are extremely durable. So the footage that I'm filming here, I did over the space of about 2 hours. And with this paint, as soon as it was dry, which usually took about 10 minutes to the point where I felt like it was really dry, I could mask over it directly. And I've had 0 points in this, either in this review or the previous review, where I have like managed to lift any paint off. And so if you need a good durable like acrylic airbrush paint, like let's say you're doing like miniature wargaming, for example, like something where you're going to be handling your figures and you don't want necessarily paint wearing off, that kind of thing, or maybe you're doing gunpla and you're posing your Gundams and whatnot, and you need like a good durable paint. This stuff it continues to surprise me how durable it is. The colors themselves are okay. Like I think this is not bad looking, and you can kind of get an idea of that like semi-gloss sheen that I was talking about, but it's not super consistent. Like I wouldn't rely on it to give you like a nice, good, solid semi-gloss coat. But I mean, there it is. The cleanup was easy. Dropping into the airbrush was easy. The paints are easy to use. They do not have any kind of strong odor. So, like from a user perspective, they're not bad. The next set of colors here that I'm going to do is their clear colors. And this is one that intrigued me, and I wanted to see how this would work over like metallics, for example. So we're taking our 109 here that we used in the previous Kaleido paint review, and I'm going to start spraying some of their clear paints over the metallics and just kind of see how they interact. And just like the previous paints, I am painting these directly out of the bottle, no thinning. And I mean, they work as advertised. I think the clear paints surprised me in their how easy they sprayed, how little they like beat it up, for example, and how easy they were to spray. And I'm kind of comparing this to the Tamiya clear acrylics as like my point of reference. And I find these to be slightly easier to use than the Tamiya clears. I haven't tried thinning them yet, but I imagine thinning them would give you a little bit more control over the opacity, but still, like, they're not terrible. You can see that I tried it over a clear part. I was just curious to see how actually clear it would come out. It tended to, reduce visibility through the clear part somewhat. I'd say at least like 30% reduction in visibility. So that's not ideal, like if you were trying to tint a canopy, for example, or something like that. But I think there's a strong foundation here to using those, and it came with some really good colors. I think this would be great for like shading, doing like heat effects on motorcycle exhaust, things like that, jet exhaust, that kind of stuff. I think you could find some good uses for the clear paints. So that's kind of my general thoughts. Like I think the actual paint itself, all the basic primary colors and all the things that I've reviewed in the past, as far as like acrylic paint, they're not bad, but there's nothing that's really standing out to me as like, ooh, I need to go and replace all of my current paint colors and everything. Like I noted, they are very durable. So for someone that might need the durability of like a lacquer, but in an acrylic form, this might be a good option. Like I mentioned before, if you're doing wargaming, if you're doing Gundam building, pretty much anything where you need to be manipulating the painted object on a regular basis, I think these would probably be a good alternative. They still don't have a lot of like military colors, which is kind of more of my general area yet. So for the actual like normal paint colors, they're not really finding their way into my my building. I have been using some of their metallic paint colors, which I think are pretty good, and I will probably be using some of their clear colors, at least testing that out in greater detail in the future. But yeah, there we go. That's kind of what I think about the paints. Head on over to mrshobby.com and check out the website. They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of products that you can purchase online. Or if you happen to be in the Sandy, Utah area in the Salt Lake Valley, head on over to their shop because it's amazing and full of wonderful kits and supplies and pretty much anything you can imagine. And they've got fantastic staff. So thank you to MRS for sending me over a copy to review, as well as from Kaleido/Gallery for sending me some paints to review. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.